Week 9, our Houston Texans take on the Indianapolis Colts, one of our divisional rivals, and I know I did a video on them in the offseason covering them, my thoughts on them, but they've played 8 games, half of their games already, so let's just take a look at this team. The Colts offense, it averages 17.8 points per game, which is the 25th best in the NFL, so it's one of the worst. They average 296.2 yards per game, which is 28th in the NFL. Passing yards per game, 196.8, which is 27th. And rushing yards, 99.5, which is 19th in the NFL. So, their offense is all around bad. Now, for their defense allows an average of 30.8 points per game, which is the worst in the NFL. Worse than the Browns, worse than the Niners, which are two 0-8 teams. The Colts have the worst scoring defense in the NFL. They allow an average of 406 yards per game, which is the second worst in the NFL. They allow an average of 290 passing yards per game, which is the second worst in the NFL. And they allow an average of 116 yards per game, which is 19th in the NFL. So their defense is all around bad. Their offense is bad. Head coaching or coaching situation, man. The Colts fans want Pagano out, and I think he should have been out a long time ago. I don't know how he still has a job. The guy is absolutely terrible. And they're 2-6 for a reason. And no, it's not because Andrew Luck is hurt. Most of it is because Pagano's incompetent. He's a terrible head coach. He's been that way for ages, since he's been with the Colts. The Colts, even with Andrew Luck, if they weren't having a miraculous comeback, they were getting blown out. It was one of the two. Nothing in between. Quarterback situation. You guys know Andrew Luck, a messed up shoulder. A lot of people thought he'd be back by the start of the season. I knew he wouldn't be back. I thought the timetable for him to return would be around week 6. And it was kind of looking that way, but he had a major setback. So now it's looking like he's not going to play at all this season. And I highly advise the Colts to not play him at all this season, because their season's already over, if I'm being honest with them. And they should probably be honest with themselves too. They shouldn't really risk Andrew Luck coming back and him getting hurt even more. And personally, I think Andrew Luck's career might be over. Now, Jacoby Brissett, man. A lot of Colts fans seem to think Jacoby Brissett's the future. The guy sucks. He's absolutely terrible. He's thrown 4 interceptions, and all 4 of those, or I'm pretty sure all 4 of them have been pick sixes, and pretty killer pick sixes as well. So, the guy's bad. He has 5 passing touchdowns as well as, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's just, if the first read isn't there, he's not going to complete it. I don't know what the Colts fans see in him. He's just an all-around bad player. I mean, he's better than the backup quarterback they had, but that's not really saying much. Their offensive line, one of the worst in the NFL, even now, especially now that Jack Mewhort is hurt. At the start of the season, Ryan Kelly was hurt, and then Ryan Kelly comes back, and then a game later, Jack Mewhort goes down, and you already know Constanzo is one of the most inconsistent players in the league. He's a terrible pass blocker, a pretty good run blocker, but that's not really what you want in the left tackle. So their offensive line is a mess. Their running back situation, they think they have something special with Marlon Mack, and he has shown flashes, but Chuck Pagano doesn't utilize him as much. Frank Gore, old man Gore, man, he's still doing pretty decent for his age. What, like 40, pretty much? Like 35, but you know what I'm saying here. Their receiving game they got no receivers besides T.Y. Hilton. And it's funny because Colts fans, or a lot of Colts fans, don't really like T.Y. Hilton. They nicknamed him the Ghost. Why? Because apparently he disappears in a bunch of games. Moncrief isn't a good player. Aiken isn't good. Other than that, they got no other receiver. Jack Doyle, he struggles catching the ball sometimes, even though last week he had 12 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty impressive, man. I had him on my fantasy team and then I cut him because he was doing so terrible. So that sucks for me and kind of inconsistent, I'd say, for the Colts then. Last year he did show a lot of promise, but this year he's kind of been just inconsistent, and I'm pretty sure some of that has to do with, Jacoby Brissett being his quarterback. Defensive line, terrible, man. Absolutely terrible. All around. Linebackers, their edge rushers, John Simon, Jabal Sheard, ended up being some pretty good signings, but that's all they really have on that linebacker core. Their inside linebackers, man, they're arguably the worst in the league. Actually, you probably can't even make an argument for them not being the worst in the league. They're so bad. They struggle stopping the run. They struggle covering tight ends, running backs. So they really need to work on that. Their DBs. Vontae Davis has been inconsistent his whole career. And this year is no different. Except this year, it looks like he's regressed really, really, really bad. He's no longer a corner that can, one day go from shutting down Jordy Nelson and then the next week get torched by Antonio Brown for 4 touchdowns and 200 yards. They did, however, find themselves a corner. His name is Melvin, and I don't know where they really got him from. All I know, or how he ended up on the team, but he was a journeyman corner pretty much his whole career up until this point, and he's having a career year in Indy. And another guy that I haven't really heard anything about is their second round pick, Quincy Wilson, who I thought was a great pickup, but for some reason they haven't really been throwing him out there at all. Safeties. They have no safeties besides Malik Hooker, who I thought was a great pickup in the draft, but he tore his ACL, so that's really unfortunate for the Colts. I mean, it really sucks when the player gets injured, especially as young as Hooker. And I think he might have been able to give the Texans some problems because he's just a good young player, man. He's got a knack for making plays, and he's hurt. So pretty much, man, this Colts secondary, their defense is a mess. Their whole team actually is a mess. From the coaching to the owner, man. You already know Ursi, man. The fact that he hasn't fired Pagano, it just indicates that something is wrong with him as well. Their GM brought in some pretty decent players via free agency and the draft, so maybe he's the only safe thing right now in Indy, because this team right now, it's a complete mess. Even the locker room is a mess, man. I want to say 2 weeks ago it was, T.Y. Hilton made a comment, the offensive line has to block better. And when players start calling each other out, that's it. It's over, man. Like, it's okay if you say, oh, we got to do a better job as a whole of the team, But he just called out a particular unit, and you just can't do that. That divides the locker room. And I'm pretty sure Chuck Pagano is losing the locker room as we speak right now. The Colts are just an all-around mess, man. 2-6. Their only wins come against the Niners and the Browns, who are both with a combined record of 0-16. So, yeah, this team is a special kind of bad. Anyways, with that being said, guys, Colts fans, if I missed anything about your team, comment down below. And thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.